This is Kelly from 1-2 plus me and you, and I'm going to be showing you how to make a car caddy for little toy cars. This one holds 4 cars. There's a pocket for each, and also a racetrack that actually fits nicely a car on each side. When you are done playing, you can fold it up and use the ties on the end to tie it up nicely, and it could go easily in a backpack, a diaper bag, or in your car. It's great for traveling, or if you want to leave this at grandma's house. But the cars will stay accounted for, and you won't have to be looking for them or rooting underneath the airplane seat or in the back seat of your car while you're traveling. When I made this, I used a basic cotton fabric. I had cars in this one because I just thought it was cute. And then also I used 3 different colors of felt. My background, my road, and then also the little dashes on the road. The ties I used the same as this material here. So that's what you would need. I'm going to be making one from scratch, and I decided to use this material just because it was something that I had on hand. And this is actually a flannel material. A lightweight flannel or a cotton work just fine for this type of project. And what you're going to need is also some felt for the background and the road. So what you want to do first is you want to cut your decorative material, so it's this bicycle material, into a few different measurements. The first one would be 15.5 inches by 9 inches. Then you would need a 6-inch by 12.5 inch piece, and then also one that is 4.5 inches by 9 inches. And because I like to use ties to tie things up, that way if you use a bigger car or something a little bit bulkier, you can really make sure that it's close. I like to use that. So these are 14 inches by 2 inches each. And so you'll be making your own straps. The felt, I just decided to use turquoise as a background color because I thought it matched nicely with this material. And turquoise, could be water, so it could be kind of an island or something. And then I'm using black for the road, and yellow because it's just a piece of scrap, so any type of scrap you can really use any color for the dash lines. And yeah. But with the turquoise and the black material, you'll need a piece of felt that's 11.5 by 9 inches. What I did was I cut a big piece from a bolt, 11.5 by 9 inches for both of these, because I had leftover material from the superhero capes that I made. You can easily find sheets of felt at the fabric store, craft store, so they're already cut. If you find a big bag of felt that's cut into sheets like this, they might not be the same size, because I have a bag of felt that I got at, I don't know, a dollar store or something, and they are much narrower and I think a little bit longer than this measurement. So if you buy the sheets at the fabric store, you'll be fine. Otherwise, if you buy it off the bolt, you'll be fine as well. And it might actually be cheaper if you buy it off the bolt. It's really up to you. Again, the colors don't really matter. I like to go with gray or black for the road just because that's more logical for me, but it doesn't really matter. You can do whatever you need to do. Okay, so first off, we're going to take that piece that is 6 inches by 12.5 inches, and what we're going to do is just fold it in half. You can see my crease because I've already done this. You're going to fold it so right sides are touching, and you're going to go ahead and do that. So I'll probably put this down so I can do that with 2 hands. And then what you're really going to do is just sew along the edge. When you're sewing pretty much everything, you'll want to be sewing 1/4 inch seams. And you want to sew on 2 sides, so you could sew this and this. That's probably what I will do. And then we will turn it out. So if you want to pin it, it's up to you, but it'd be a good idea to iron it down so it just stays flat on its own. And then again, sew from here to here. And then we're ready for the next step. Okay, so I've gone ahead and sewed along the edge here, the short end, and then all along here. And of course, don't forget to back stitch here. And what you're going to do is you're going to snip off the little edge here, and then snip off this little edge. It'll just be easier when you fold it out that you don't have the corners to mess with. And then you're just going to pull it through. So can't do it with one hand, but you're going to right side it out. So I've gone ahead and right sided out, and you can go ahead and press it with an iron. Notice the side is still open. You could just leave it there. It's not a big deal because it's going to be the pockets for the cars. So what we're going to do next is to take the background felt piece and the other piece that's 4.5 by 9 inches, and you're going to put the right sides together here and align it at the bottom. And then once this is aligned, again, you can pin this if you want to so it stays in place. Might be a good idea. And then you're just going to sew along the bottom here with a 1/4 inch seam again. Now I've gone ahead and sewn it, and what I have now is the side for my pockets and the side for my road. So that is all set to go. Now what you want to do next is grab your black felt, and you are actually going to be making the road. Okay, so I've gone ahead and folded it one time and then folded it again. So you want to make sure that it all lines up. And again, if you want to put a pin in it just so that it doesn't move on you, that's probably not a bad idea. So I'm going to put a few pins in this just to, not really in the areas where I want to be cutting, so it doesn't move on me. So there. And again, your edges here, where all the pieces come together, is where you're going to want to round it. So I'm just going to cut it around. And then again, I know I want to fit 2 cars on there, roughly. So it gives me maybe an idea of how far to come in. I can even put my pins there. And then maybe if I want to put my cars up here towards the corner piece, then I know how high up to go. So maybe I'll start there and just put a little cut in with my scissors. Not too far. Then as I'm going around, again, I'm moving my cars around to the edge. So I'm going to cut out this center piece. So I've already put a little notch here. Now I need to figure out how far in to go and to go down. So again, I'm going to line my cars up side by side and just get an idea of how much room I need. Maybe give myself a little bit of space off to the side, because I can always go back in. And then I'm going to round this up to meet this cut. And so it looks like such. And when you take your pins out, it looks like that. And of course I'll be going in and cleaning that up because I have a little bit of roughness to it. But when you, so yeah, I'll be cleaning it up a little bit. Get ready and change your thread, because what we're going to do is we are going to sew this puppy down, and that's it. No more trimming. I'm going to go ahead and pin it just so it doesn't move on me, because you never know. And I'm just going to sew the inside, and then I'm going to sew along the outside, and that's all I need to do for that. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've sewed down the racetrack inside circle and outside circle. And what I'm going to do now is cut my yellow pieces for the dashes. And I don't know if you can see this, but the length of the dash is 1 inch and the width is 1/4 inch. So you're going to cut 10 of those. So really, I mean, this is more than enough of what I'm going to be using it for. So if you have a really teeny tiny piece of scrap, I'm sure you're fine. Okay, I've gone ahead and cut my little dash pieces. What I find to be the easiest is actually just to take a pen, just a regular old pen, and trace out the 1 inch by 1/4 inch, and then just cut along, or maybe just before those the pen marks. Otherwise, it's just kind of a pain. I find that's easier. So I'm just going to put them down and kind of space them every so often, just to get an idea of where I want them to go. And obviously I can move these around because I'm just trying to get a feel. I want to put them in the center. And what I'll be doing is actually pinning these down so I can sew. Thought I would show you, I just went ahead and sewed down all of the little dashes, but I thought I would show you just how I put my pins in. So here's an example. My pins kind of go from side to side, and then as you can see, I just sewed straight down, and then I did a back stitch on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and take my pins out. Alright, and once you are ready with all of that, you're going to take that piece that you went ahead and sewed down the two sides, and you are actually going to make the pocket. Obviously this is longer than this piece, which is what you want, because you're going to need a little bit of puffiness, so it's going to come in as you're making those pockets. So first off, you want to align the sides. So just pick a side and align it here with the bottom and the side, and you're going to pin it down, and then just top stitch sew from top to bottom. Then you're going to again make sure it's aligned all the way in the bottom. I'll fix this once I put down the camera. This one again was open, but it doesn't really matter, because you know you're going to sew it again here, and then you're going to sew it again when you put the back piece on. So you know right now it's just the piece you made, but then here you're going to do the same thing, line it up all the way to the corner, pin it down, and then just top stitch it from top to bottom here on this piece. And then you're going to need 4 cars to work on the pockets. So once you get the sides sewn, then you want to go ahead and go find some cars. And I picked 2 relatively flat cars and 2 kind of bigger cars. They have like an SUV and a Jeep. Those are a bit taller. Before I move on with pinning down the cars, I just want to show you what it looks like. So here I've sewed down the edges, and I've got a lot of space in between. Okay, so I put my first pin in. So just to show you, I measured. So again, this is 12.5, but since I sewed it on both sides, it's really 12. So I figured out where 6 was, and that was here. And then the bottom one is 9, so I figured out where 4.5 is, and that's here. So I pinned my 6 to my 4.5, so that is exactly in the middle. And then again, these might not be, you know, exactly the middle of this part because the cars are different sizes. So I'm not going to need as much space here for this flat car as I would for this tall car. And then the same goes for over here. So now, as you can see, I've gone ahead and sewn this down through the middle. I'm going to put my cars back in, and then I'm going to pin. So again, you want it to be puffy when you sew because you want the cars to have some room. So I will pin to get an idea of where it is, and then when I put it in the machine, obviously you can't sew on top of a pin. I'll line it up. Maybe I'll put a pin down on the bottom just so I know where to go, and as I get closer I'll pull it out. And then I'll come back and do the exact same thing to this side, and then we will be on our way to finishing up here. One thing, I've actually gone through and sewn the pockets, and some are kind of bigger than others, but you put the cars and they all fit, that's fine. And you can actually, kind of make this flat, fold this down flat, and then iron it, and that's just fine. But one thing that should go without saying is you want to make sure that it aligns here on the bottom and there's no overlapping anywhere, so it's just kind of a perfect flush right there. So once you've gotten to this part, you're really close to being done. The next part is you'll want to do is grab those pieces of fabric, the long pieces for the straps, and we're going to make the straps down. So again, if this is a 2-inch strap, then you're going to fold this down about a 1/2 inch, and then you're going to iron all the way down to the end so it's nice and flat and staying on its own. Then you're going to fold this up for a 1/2 inch, and then you are going to iron it down all the way down. So again, it's standing on its own, and then you are, once those two are done, then you're going to take the two and fold them on top of each other and then sew that all the way down. I should though tell you before we get started, so I went ahead and I folded it and I sewed this down so it'll be easier when I fold it this way. I won't have to worry about it coming undone. But when I sew from top to bottom, I'm going to use a zigzag stitch because it's a lot easier. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've sewn my straps. Again, I used a zigzag pattern all the way to the bottom, and as you can see, it's quite nice there on the edge. What you need to do before moving forward is, again, we want to flatten out, I guess make a pleat, all of these pockets so that way they're kind of centered. You don't want it lopping off here to the side. You want it nice and centered and flat, like such. And you're going to iron that down. What you could do, and this is probably what I'll do, I'm going to be taking the backing, so that big piece, and I'm going to put like sides together. And I think what I'm going to do first is I'm ironing this down, and then I'm going to put this on top and make sure that it aligns, and then I'm just going to sew the bottom here, and then I'm going to stop, because when I do the sides I don't want this to kind of get caught off because then the pocket won't work. So I'm going to kind of smush that back in, and then I'm going to pin it on the sides, and then I'm going to sew up a little here and sew up a little there. Okay, as to not get too far ahead and get it too confusing, just give you a recap of what I've done. This is the bottom. I had gone through and I ironed the pleats. Then I attached this with pins just to this spot, and I went ahead and sewed. Then after sewing that part, I went ahead and I folded these pleats in so that way they don't hang off the sides, and then I started to pin it. all along, making sure that it's flush and then it matches with the underside so that nothing hangs over. And then I went ahead and put my pins in. Of course, when you get to this point, you want to make sure again that your straps are in and they're in the center. Okay, and again, so with this, I've actually gone ahead and sewn all the way around until I got to this point. So I did this, I stopped, I fixed my corners, and then I came back through and went through and started to sew along here. Again, go back and forth through here a couple times, you don't have to, but I like to reinforce it. Then I came here and stopped. Now I'm going to put it back in the machine and I am going to sew from here to here, and then again backstitch at the beginning and the end every time. And then when that's done, next I will be cutting the corners. Be careful not to cut the areas where you just sewed, and then once those corners have been cut, then you can go ahead and turn it right side out. Okay, so here is the almost finished product. So I've gone ahead and right-sided it out and make sure that I'm pushing on these corners just so that they have the edge to them. And then I've gone ahead and folded and pinned right here the part that I didn't sew. So I'm going to top stitch this, and then I am all done. Put your cars in it and you are ready to go.